First, Brew. The Metropolitan Club's grand ballroom buzzed with 100 conversations, each one a thread in the intricate tapestry of our shared past. 10 years had flown by since the Sterling Academy of Architecture had sent us out into the world. For most, this reunion was a chance to celebrate their wins, reconnect with old friends, or maybe even smooth over old grudges. For me, Oliver Thorne, it felt more like a mandatory visit to a museum dedicated to a life I'd consciously left behind. I fiddled with my glass of sparkling water, the cold radiating from it a lot like the chill still sitting in my own chest. Chloe, who used to be Scarlett's shadow and now seemed to be her personal advocate, leaned in close. Her voice, a persistent hum, had been going on for a good 15 minutes, listing all of Scarlett's supposed sacrifices. Seriously, Oliver? A little thankfulness wouldn't kill you. Scarlett went through so much. Doesn't that move you at all? Her urgent whisper, a little too loud, caught the attention of our old classmates. A wave of curious and judging stares washed over me. Their old ideas, a story they'd all believed a decade ago, still clung to me. Scarlett Jones. That name, once a burning obsession, now felt like something dug up from an archaeological site. Studied, noted, then carefully put back. A fascinating piece of history that no longer belonged to me. The intense, almost desperate love I'd once had for her had been completely worn away by time, leaving behind only the faint, dull ache of a very old scar. 10 years. 10 years since I'd packed my life into 2 beat-up suitcases and walked away from the glittering promises of this city, leaving behind a trail of shattered dreams. So, apart from my closest family, no one here really knew my full story. I couldn't shake the feeling that Chloe's earnest pleas were more than just friendly concern. It felt like a carefully delivered message, a pre-planned speech from Scarlett herself, meant to remind me of her supposed unwavering devotion. The thought, a bitter taste in my mouth, made me frown even deeper. Whatever happened between Scarlett and me, that's just old news, I said, my voice calm but firm, showing no hint of lingering sentimentality. Let's not dig up old ghosts. I gave a small, dismissing wave of my hand, a gesture meant to end the conversation. The general chatter around us suddenly died down, replaced by an awkward silence. You could hear the distant city wind outside the huge windows, a sharp contrast to the sudden quiet in the room. Every eye nearby was fixed on me, completely stunned. Scarlett and I had grown up together, our families running in the same high society circles. That easy childhood friendship had, for me, gradually turned into something fiercer, a consuming kind of possessiveness. As the only son, spoiled a bit perhaps, I'd been raised with a rock-solid confidence, a youthful belief that if I wanted something badly enough and chased it hard, it would eventually be mine. And I had chased Scarlett Jones with everything I had. She was the picture of grace and intelligence, the famous Ice Queen of Sterling Academy. I'd gone all out for her, booking the best tables at trendy restaurants, reserving private screenings at indie cinemas, even subtly using my family's wide network when her father's struggling architecture firm faced a big financial audit. I made sure she had everything she needed to focus on her studies, all while expertly fending off any other guys who dared to show interest. It was actually my own father, a giant in property development, who had quietly opened doors for her, smoothing her path into the highly competitive Sterling & Associates junior program, where a partnership was practically guaranteed. Eventually, through sheer stubbornness, I had won her over. The untouchable Ice Queen began to soften. She'd gently remind me to dress warmly for the unpredictable city weather, bring me rare imported coffees when I pulled all-nighters, and listen patiently, her cool gaze softening when I complained about difficult professors. She even put up with my occasional bad moods, a playful roll of her eyes her only criticism. When other classmates whispered about me being too obsessed or her personal doormat, she'd stand firmly by my side, introducing me proudly to her friends at exclusive art shows and industry events. I truly believed we would walk hand in hand, conquering the world of architecture together forever, until 3 months before the highly sought-after Sterling Fellowship applications were due, the ultimate prize for any Sterling graduate, Owen Hart reappeared. Owen had been a childhood acquaintance of Scarlett's, quiet, intense boy from a less privileged but equally ambitious family. Scarlett had always talked about him fondly, calling him a bright spot during a tough period in her youth. Still, I trusted Scarlett completely. I was too sure of our bond to suspect anything, even treating Owen like a buddy simply because he was connected to her. But then, Scarlett's time became incredibly scarce. Even during school breaks, she didn't have room for me in her schedule. Our usual study sessions became rare, then stopped altogether. Sometimes when I made an effort to find her, she'd put me off with vague excuses about crucial research or important faculty meetings. On our 2-year anniversary, a date burned into my memory. She again claimed an unavoidable academic emergency that kept us from spending the evening together. But something felt very wrong. Just days before, she told me her schedule was clear. It wasn't like Sterling Academy to suddenly pile on urgent work, especially for someone with Scarlett's connections. A growing knot of suspicion in my stomach propelled me discreetly to the campus. I was told she was on leave, not there. A junior administrator mentioned seeing her heading toward the city's swanky Sterling Mall. Without a second thought, I rushed there, my heart thumping with a mix of dread and denial. And there she was, Scarlett Jones, laughing, absolutely glowing, walking side by side with Owen Hart through the busy main area. Their arms were loaded with shopping bags from fancy stores. They looked exactly like a couple, completely lost in each other. Next to them, Scarlett's younger sister, Lydia, her face bright with youthful excitement, nudged Owen playfully. "Owen," Lydia chirped, her voice clear enough to cut through the mall noise. "I really think you and Scarlett are perfect together. Can I just call you brother-in-law from now on?" She giggled, looking up at Owen, who grinned back with a joyful, almost possessive smile. Scarlett shot her sister a mild look. "Don't be silly," she mumbled, but her tone lacked any real scolding. It was a soft mix of indulgence and quiet affection, a subtle upward curve of her lips giving away her true feelings. A sour, suffocating ache bloomed in my chest. Breathing felt like a series of small, sharp pains. Maybe my stare was too intense, too full of raw emotion, because she suddenly turned, her eyes scanning the crowd until they landed coldly on me. My face must have shown a raw mix of hurt and anger, yet she offered no comfort, no hint of guilt. Instead, a flash of annoyance crossed her face. Second, Brew I watched her walk away, her elegant figure disappearing around the corner of the polished hallway, leaving behind nothing but a wave of pure, chilling emptiness. "You're calling my character flawed? That I disappointed you?" The words echoed, a phantom sting in my ears. Maybe my stunned silence had left her speechless because after a long pause, her voice, now colder, drifted back to me. "I'll talk to Professor Davies. From now on, I won't have any more contact with Owen. I'm also going to be really busy with my final research projects, so we probably won't see each other for a while. You should use this time to think about where you went wrong." With that, she was gone. Her confident exit left me questioning everything. Should I really be with this person? After all this time, all the genuine effort I put in, what did I actually get in return? I was furious, a slow burning anger that settled deep inside me. So I stopped talking to her, a desperate, almost childish silent treatment, and sure enough, she was busy. At least she never showed up in front of me again. Even when I ran into her at a fancy industry party a month later, her eyes slid right past me, as if I were invisible, a complete stranger. I used to think one of us would eventually break first, that she would call, would explain, would apologize. But instead of an apology, what I got was the official notice. The Sterling Fellowship had been awarded to Owen Hart. My name wasn't even on the backup list. And the guaranteed partnership at Sterling & Associates? It had vanished like a bad dream. Oliver Thorne, who had grown up as the cherished only son, whose parents had already smoothed the way for an amazing career, was suddenly an outsider, blacklisted. The whispers started immediately. Oliver Thorne, that arrogant fool, tried to strong-arm the committee for a spot he didn't deserve. He spread nasty rumors about his classmates, a shameful lack of sportsmanship. The story had been expertly created, spread, and believed by everyone. I couldn't believe it. So I went straight to Scarlett. She was on the selection committee. There was no way she didn't know about this. At the time, she was chatting and laughing with Owen, his arm casually draped over her chair. They looked exactly like the power couple the rumors said they were. Nearby were a few others, Scarlett's close friends, including Chloe, her eyes already wide with anticipation. The moment I walked into the dean's office, where the committee was having a small celebration, all the laughter and joy in the room vanished. The atmosphere froze as if none of it had ever happened. Scarlett, I need an explanation. I stared at her, outwardly calm, but my eyes showed deep, shattering disappointment. She looked at me, a slight frown on her face, then let out a sigh that sounded practiced and tired. I knew you'd come to me about this, Oliver. Every applicant is expected to accept the committee's decision professionally. That's not new to you, is it? Of course I knew. I nodded, my jaw tight. Then you knew I was on the original shortlist, right? Why is my name gone, but his is there instead? I had seen the preliminary selection list days earlier, privately shared among the top students. My name had been at the top. Owen's was much lower, but now, the final announcement listed him as the only winner. Scarlett pressed her lips together, her gaze flicking towards Owen. Before she could speak, Owen stepped forward, a carefully fake look of concern on his face. Oliver, I already accepted the fellowship. It's really disruptive for you to challenge the committee's work now. You shouldn't be making accusations about Scarlett like this. You're her former fiancé. Saying things like that will hurt her. His words, wrapped in fake empathy, stabbed into me like a knife. I looked straight at Scarlett, my lips trembling, my eyes locked on hers. So, that's how it is? She glanced at me, and there was something complicated in that look. Hesitation, a struggle, and a faint, sickening glimmer of firm decision. Oliver, your family is well off. You have your parents and sister to take care of you. But Owen, he's a scholarship student. He only has himself to rely on for a future like this. Hearing that, a cold, brittle laugh escaped my throat. This was the girl I had grown up with. The woman I'd loved and cared for over 10 years. If I could, I'd rather have never met her, never loved her. Shaking my head, I took 2 steps back. The utter disappointment in my eyes seemed to burn her. She reached out as if to grab my hand, but Owen was faster. He stepped in front of her, subtly blocking her, and stared at me with a smug, triumphant look. The flicker of victory was gone almost as quickly as it appeared, replaced by his pitiful tone. Oliver, if you spread rumors about her like this, the dean might think Scarlett has questionable morals. Do you really want to ruin her future? He sniffled, then added, his voice barely a whisper. I know you wanted my position. Your father even came to warn me. Told me to get lost and stay away from Scarlett. I'll listen, okay? As he said that, he even dabbed at the corner of his eye. A dramatic gesture. Scarlett's composure suddenly broke. What did you say? A warning? Chloe, always agreeing with Scarlett, quickly nodded. I did see an assistant from Mr. Thorne Sr.'s office talk to Owen Scarlett. It was quite a scene. With Chloe's confirmation, Scarlett's expression turned utterly venomous. Oliver, I can't believe you've become this kind of person. Owen has no one. He's a brilliant, self-made man. I only looked out for him because of our old friendship. But I never imagined you'd be so jealous, using your family's power to push others down. I used to think you were just a little proud. But now I see you're beyond hope. Rotten to the core. Her words were vicious like poison arrows. For the first time, I couldn't stop the tears from rolling down my face, hot and embarrassing. I quickly wiped them away with my sleeve, then looked up at her, my vision blurry. In your heart, is that really what you think of me? Of my family? You didn't even bother to find out the truth before you started making accusations like that. I stared at Scarlett, who met my gaze with fierce anger. They have no reason to lie to me, Oliver. The moment she said that, I felt a sharp pain in my chest. Worse than any physical wound. Chloe and the others started whispering. Their eyes now filled with even more contempt and disgust as they looked at me. If you don't want to accept the committee's decision... Oliver, Scarlett snapped, her voice cold and hard. I have proof that your father abused his power to try and unfairly influence the selection process. I will not hesitate to expose it to the dean and the press if you keep harassing me. The moment those chilling words left her mouth, I knew there was no longer any future between us. To protect Owen, to boost her own standing, she was willing to hurt my family, to destroy my reputation. My dreams lay in ashes at her feet, and she looked down at them with disdain. I left her with one sentence, "I'll go," and firmly walked out of the dean's office, away from the glittering promise of Sterling Academy, away from the woman who had shattered my world. Before I left the city for good, I asked my sister to return the silver pin Scarlett had given me. That was the end of our 20-something years of history together. It took me a month to find a new place. Not another big shiny city, but a quiet, rugged coastal town far to the north, tucked against the dramatic cliffs of the Great Bay. No skyscrapers, no famous firms, just the raw beauty of the ocean and the simple, honest work of building. I started small, sketching designs for local fishermen's cottages, then renovating old beachfront homes. I found peace in the solid feel of wood, the smell of sawdust, the quiet satisfaction of creating something real and lasting with my own hands. I bought a small rustic cabin overlooking the stormy sea, determined to rebuild my life bit by painstaking bit. It was in that town, 3 years after I arrived, that I met Lara Vance. She ran the town's only bookstore and cafe, charming spot filled with the scent of old books and fresh coffee. I had wandered in one afternoon looking for a rare architecture magazine and found her behind the counter, her hair the color of burnished copper, pulled back in a loose braid. She had a quiet intensity about her, a thoughtful gaze that noticed everything, and a smile that crinkled the corners of her eyes. It was a warmth that felt like coming home after years in the cold. We talked about books, about the town, about how to build houses that fit in with nature. She knew a surprising amount about local architecture, and her ideas were fresh, not bogged down by the academic politics I had once known. There was no pretense with Lara, no act. She was simply, truly herself. And slowly, carefully, I found myself telling her bits and pieces of my past, the parts I rarely thought about. She listened without judgment, sometimes reaching across the table to gently squeeze my hand. You build with integrity. Oliver, she told me once, looking at a design I'd sketched for a new community center. That's worth more than any fancy fellowship. Her belief in me, pure and strong, was a balm to wounds I hadn't realized were still hurting so deeply. Our connection grew, slowly but steadily, like the solid foundation of a well-built house. There were no grand gestures, no big declarations, just a quiet, deep understanding. I grew to love the way she tucked a stray strand of hair behind her ear when she was thinking hard, the way she hummed softly as she arranged new book displays, the comforting scent of coffee and vanilla that always seemed to cling to her. We got married 2 years later in a small ceremony overlooking the bay, the salty air mixing with the sweet smell of wildflowers. A year after that, our daughter Maya arrived. She was a bundle of pure joy, with Alara's copper hair and my determined chin. Her laughter was the sweetest sound I'd ever heard. A clear, beautiful song, that chased away the last bits of the city's bitterness. My life had become a beautiful tapestry of simple, profound joys. The sunrise over the ocean, the feel of Maya's tiny hand in mine, Ilara's quiet presence beside me as we watched the evening tide. They were my anchor, my future, the real truth I had found after the spectacular lies of my past. Back in the present, I looked at Chloe, still hovering beside me at the reunion, her face a mix of concern and frustration. "Sorry, Chloe," I said, my voice softer now but definitely firm. "The past is just that, past. We need to look forward." Seeing that I was about to leave, Chloe quickly called out, "Oliver, I know you're angry, but don't you think Scarlett deserves a chance to explain?" I frowned. What's there to explain about the past? Besides, I'm married now. In that instant, the entire room fell silent again, even more completely than before. Everyone stared at me. Even Chloe looked at me in disbelief, her mouth slightly open. "What did you say? You're married? How could you be married? You were so in love with Scarlett." As she spoke, others joined in, their hushed whispers growing louder, clearly not believing me and agreeing with her. "Oliver married? No way. He used to chase after Scarlett like a puppy." Exactly. A guy that desperate and clingy, who would like him? He was meant to marry Scarlett, not mess up someone else's life. And someone who was that obsessed. How could he just stop loving her overnight? I don't believe it. He's clearly just being stubborn, pretending he's married. One bitter, mean comment after another. But I acted like I hadn't heard a thing. I just looked calmly at Chloe. "Do you also think I'm lying?" She froze for a second, wanting to say something, but in the end, she just shook her head, sighing. "To be honest, Oliver, I probably shouldn't get involved. But I just feel like Scarlett gave so much for you. The least you could do is see her. No matter how it ends, you should at least have a proper conversation." Her voice softened a lot as she said that, a desperate plea in her eyes, but I could still see the disbelief. The lingering doubt etched into her face. After all, I had once chased after Scarlett with everything I had, willing to give her my whole world, even my basic dignity and pride as a man. But even a love that strong was eventually put out. As of now, Chloe, I'm already married. Whether they believed me or not didn't matter. I knew that even if I explained, they wouldn't really listen. People only want to see what they choose to believe. I remembered I'd promised Maya I'd be home early to celebrate her 5th birthday, so I had no interest in staying any longer. I stood up, ready to leave, but Chloe, with surprising strength, blocked my way. "You're already here, Oliver. Can't you wait just a little longer?" "Scarlett is already on her way." Just as I was about to speak, the heavy oak door to the private room swung open, and there she was, Scarlett Jones, slightly out of breath, her eyes sweeping the room, making a dramatic entrance. She was now dressed in a sharp charcoal power suit, gold-rimmed glasses perched on her elegant nose. Behind the lenses, her already cool eyes seemed even more distant and alluring. She gave off a vibe of refined indifference, a powerful presence that made people feel they could only admire her from afar, never get too close. But the moment her eyes landed on me, all that coldness vanished, replaced by a wave of tenderness, almost vulnerability. She quickly approached, forcing a stiff, awkward smile onto her face. A dry, uncertain smile. "Oliver," she said, her voice soft, almost hushed. "It's been a long time." A faint blush crept onto her cheeks, and her gaze held a quiet, desperate hope. I nodded politely in return. "Scarlett, long time indeed, but not good." Her smile froze on her face, crumbling instantly. A flicker of genuine sadness crossed her eyes, and her whole demeanor was suddenly filled with melancholy. "Oliver, are you still mad at me? Why are you treating me like a stranger? That's not how it's supposed to be between us, is it? It really hurts me when you act like this." She looked so wounded, so fragile. In the past, whenever she showed me that face, no matter how angry I was, I'd always end up comforting her, giving in to what she wanted. And now she was trying that trick again. An old, well-worn manipulation. But unfortunately for her, I was no longer the same person I once was. I looked at Scarlett calmly, my decision firm. "Miss Jones," I said, using her formal last name, a deliberate separation between us. "We haven't seen each other in 10 years. And frankly, this distance between us is exactly how it should be. What happened back then? I couldn't forgive it, and now I definitely won't forgive it." After saying that, I picked up my coat and briefcase, turning to leave. It was getting late. I needed to go home to Maya. She was still waiting for me to celebrate her birthday. I stepped past Scarlett, heading toward the door, but she suddenly grabbed my wrist, her grip surprisingly strong. Then with a dramatic move, she dropped to one knee, pulling out a small velvet-lined box. Inside was a shining sterling silver pin, exactly like the one she had once given me, the one that symbolized our engagement. But that one I had returned long ago, a final act of heartbroken defiance as I left the city. Caught off guard for just a moment, I saw her take a small, intricately carved ring from the box and try to slip it onto my left ring finger. "Let's get married, Oliver," she pleaded, her voice full of affection, almost desperate, as if without that ring, I'd simply disappear forever. "Scarlett, I think you're confusing me with someone else. I'm not Owen." When she heard that, her urgent expression strangely shifted into one of subtle smugness, a familiar flicker of the old Scarlett. She gripped my hand tighter. "Oliver, are you jealous? I admit what happened with the Sterling Fellowship back then was unfair to you, but I did it for you and your family." Owen said that if he didn't get the fellowship, he would expose some minor problems in your father's recent land deals. I knew how much your parents cared about you, and I knew how much you cared about them, right? Seeing that she still wanted to twist the past to justify her actions, I pulled my hand away with a sharp tug. "First of all, Scarlett, I never did anything to Owen that warrants guilt, and my father's deals were totally legitimate. I don't need you making choices on my behalf. Second, if my parents really did something wrong, Owen can go ahead and report them. He can't convict them with just empty words." I took a deep breath, letting the finality sink in. "And lastly, let's stop talking about the past. There's no future between us, none, because I'm already married, and my daughter is 5 years old. So please, Miss Jones, stop saying things that could cause misunderstandings. I don't want my wife to get jealous or upset." My words drained the color from Scarlett's face. Her eyes, once so confident, now held a bewildered shock. She grabbed my arm again, shaking me over and over. "What did you say? You're married? And you have a 5-year-old daughter? Oliver, you're just saying that to upset me, right? You're mad, aren't you? You're trying to get back at me?" Her voice cracked a desperate plea. "Didn't you say before that you only ever wanted to marry me? How could you possibly have married someone else?" She leaned in closer, her serious eyes full of desperate hope. It was as if she was waiting, begging for me to deny everything I'd just said. But as I looked back into her eyes, I was completely calm. Yet on her face, once untouchable and composed, there was now panic, unease, even a hint of regret. I'd seen her wear that expression once before, when her father's firm was almost ruined, only once. I never thought I'd see it again now, aimed at me. "Oliver, why didn't you wait for me?" she asked, her voice carrying a note of accusation, an unwillingness to accept the truth. "I was trying so hard to find a way back to you." She spoke as if I had betrayed her, as if I had crushed her great love. "Wait for you?" I asked, a bitter chuckle escaping me. "Scarlett, did you forget how long I already waited for you back then?" Scarlett froze. It was as if a long-buried memory had suddenly resurfaced, a crack in her carefully put-together facade. Her lips parted for a long time before she finally spoke. "Owen and I, we really weren't anything more than friends." She desperately tried to explain, her voice a raw plea. But I gently pushed her hands away and stepped back to keep my distance, my gaze steady. "Scarlett, it's not about what you say, it's about what you do. How many times did you argue with me because of him? How many times did you completely ignore me? You lied about being too busy just so you could go shopping for expensive research equipment with him. And you think that's love? If you truly liked me, loved me, then I should have come first. Not always be the one left waiting. My words made Scarlett stumble back half a step. She had to brace herself against the back of a fancy chair to keep from falling. She was once the Ice Queen of Sterling Academy, known for her intelligence and achievements. When had anyone ever seen the proud Scarlett Jones in such a state? From the way we spoke, the people around us started remembering the past. Whispers turned into clear comments. I remember, wasn't it Scarlett who broke off her engagement with Oliver and got together with Owen? Yeah, and didn't she even personally manipulate the fellowship committee to put Oliver's name on the rejection list? So why is she acting now like she's madly in love with Oliver? If you love someone, shouldn't you protect and stand by them? Some people only realize what they've lost after it's gone, but no one will wait forever. Those comments echoed exactly how I used to feel. But now those words didn't affect me anymore. I simply looked at the pale, devastated Scarlett and said, "Miss Jones, some things are better left unsaid. If there's nothing else, I'll be heading out. My daughter's still waiting for me to celebrate her birthday. You all enjoy yourselves." With that, I turned and walked toward the door. But Scarlett rushed to block my path again, her eyes wide, desperate. She stared directly into my eyes, but when she met my cold gaze, she instinctively stepped aside. I didn't bother saying anything else and kept walking out the main entrance. Still, Scarlett wouldn't give up. She followed closely behind me, but I paid her no attention and walked all the way to the main gate of the event space. Just as I stepped outside, a tiny figure came flying into my view, sprinting straight toward me. With a joyful leap, she threw herself at my legs and hugged them tightly. "Third brew, Daddy." Her voice was a clear, joyful shout. I quickly knelt, dropping my coat, and caught the tiny figure sprinting straight into my arms. "Maya, hey princess. Did you miss your old man?" I teased, hugging her tight. Her small hand gripped my shirt. A moment later, Alara Vance arrived. Her beauty hit me every time, but it was the deep warmth in her radiant face that made my chest tighten. "Honey," she moved with a quiet, sharp confidence. She usually kept a cool distance, but now she smiled, reached for me, and took my hand. She was all mine, right there on a crowded sidewalk. "Tired?" she asked softly, her voice pulling me completely out of the drama I'd just left. "Nah, I'm great. You two showed up at the perfect moment," I confirmed. 5 years later, and she still made me feel like we were just starting out? "Daddy, you can't be all mushy with Mommy and forget about me," Maya complained, wiggling in my arms. "It's my birthday. I get priority today." "That's right. Birthday rules. Daddy's yours and Mommy can wait," I joked, tickling her gently. Alara shot me a look that was half amused, half serious. "Hold on. I should always be number one." Her eyes, full of fierce love, locked onto mine. "Mommy's being greedy." "She's stealing you," Maya wailed playfully. Alara chuckled, squeezing my hand lightly. "Are you cold? This little shadow here couldn't wait another minute, so I brought her." She glanced past us. "Our reservation at the Cove is ready. Come on, let's get you two fed." I nodded, feeling grounded again. Alara linked her arm through mine and we started walking. "Oliver." The voice, shaky and heavy with defeat, stopped us cold. We turned together. Scarlett Jones looked pale, her expensive outfit doing nothing to hide how worn down she seemed. Her eyes were fixed on us, full of pain. "What is it, Miss Jones?" "We have to go," I asked, my frown deepening. Scarlett's gaze dropped to Alara's hand wrapped around my arm. She opened her mouth but just shook her head, unable to speak. She looked like she might sway right over. Maya, still cradled against my shoulder, peered at Scarlett curiously. "Daddy, is that lady okay? She looks like she's going to fall down." The innocent question hung in the air. I gently pinched Maya's cheek, avoiding an answer. Alara looked at our daughter with a slight smile. "Maya, forget the grown-up stuff. Birthday cake time, right?" "Yes, cake now." Maya bounced, all thoughts of the strange, sad woman gone. "Oliver," Scarlett's voice came again, desperate and strained. I was about to shut her down, but Alara beat me to it. She stepped forward, her posture instantly becoming sharp and protective. "You must be Miss Jones, I have to ask. Is this truly an emergency? We're trying to leave. Interrupting a family repeatedly doesn't seem like the behavior of an accomplished professional." Her words were a calm, firm barrier. "You're out of bounds." Scarlett's composure finally snapped, replaced by raw anger and jealousy. "You're Oliver's wife." "I am," Alara confirmed, pressing herself closer to my side. "Then are you aware?" Scarlett challenged, her voice dripping with venom. "That he was completely obsessed with another woman, gave her everything he had and nearly married her." Alara didn't even blink. She was outwardly calm, but I could feel the tension radiating off her. I gently moved Maya to one hip, placed my other arm firmly around Alara's shoulders, and pulled her tight. "Miss Jones, you just answered your own question, nearly." I spoke low, just for her ears. "The past is an old map, and we're standing on a completely different continent now. Besides, everyone makes mistakes when they're young. Confusing a self-centered woman with someone worth fighting for isn't exactly a unique story." I looked her dead in the eye. "But don't rush to claim the title of self-centered woman like it's a prize. That said, I actually owe you a thank you." Scarlett just stared, completely stunned. "If you hadn't ruined my career, I wouldn't have left the city. I wouldn't have moved to the coast, and I definitely wouldn't have met my wife." I felt Alara shift slightly under my arm, a silent acknowledgement of my words. "Because of you, I have a happy marriage and a woman who looks at me like I'm her entire world." My voice dropped, laced with a cold, firm authority. "So I'd strongly advise you not to try and interfere with what I have with Alara, because nothing, not even you, can come between us." I could easily forgive the past insults and the career sabotage, but I would never allow her to threaten my family. For the people I loved, I wouldn't hesitate to fight back. Scarlett finally found her voice, a shaky whisper of disbelief. "Self-centered? Is that really what you think I am after all this time?" "Yes," I confirmed simply. "And if I had a choice, I'd wish we'd never crossed paths at all." With that, I gently nudged Alara's arm. She understood I wanted out. She tightened her grip on me and confidently led the way toward our car, parked a block away. "Was everything you said just now the truth?" she asked softly once we were out of earshot. "Of course it was," I replied, squeezing her hand reassuringly. "What happened between Scarlett and me is history. The only people I love now are you and Maya." We celebrated Maya's birthday afterward at the Cove. The joy and warmth surrounded us like a protective barrier. It felt like we'd returned to the beginning, untouched, whole. As if the whole mess with Scarlett had never happened. I genuinely thought I'd never see her again. But to my immense frustration, the moment I returned to my parents' house a week later to pick up some old files, there she was, standing at the edge of the property. She looked significantly thinner, almost fragile. The sharp, proud arrogance she always carried was gone, replaced by a defeated weariness. I felt a fresh wave of irritation. "Scarlett, what do you want now?" That last encounter had left Alara clingier than ever. She jokingly punished me all weekend for attracting drama. Now, every time I saw Scarlett, it was like seeing a giant neon sign pointing to trouble. I wanted nothing to do with her. But I knew if I didn't settle this, she'd just keep showing up, creeping into my life. "Oliver, just give me a real chance to talk with you, please." Her voice trembled with desperate pleading. "There's nothing for us to discuss." I shook my head, already turning away, but she still didn't give up. "I know I made a mistake back then. I shouldn't have trusted Owen over you. I shouldn't have sabotaged your position and let him take the fellowship meant for you." I cut her off before she could finish. "The past is done. There's no point in dragging it out. We needed to move forward, not drown in what was already over." The sheer dismissal and impatience on my face hit her hard. She realized I truly didn't care anymore, and panic flooded her expression. "Oliver, I'm so incredibly sorry. Back then I was just angry. I couldn't believe you would actually threaten Owen. He was my classmate, successful, and he was alone. I just instinctively sided with him. I know it was my fault. Her words made me bark a sharp, cold laugh. Scarlett, you say he was your successful, honest classmate. But what about me? I grew up with you. I treated you better than anyone. Maybe I was a little spoiled, a little stubborn, but I was always faithful. I let the silence hang heavy. So why was his word gospel, but mine was a lie? It boils down to this. You wanted to believe him. You chose not to believe me, or maybe your feelings had already started leaning toward him by then. When she heard that, Scarlett quickly tried to backpedal. No, it's not like that. I truly just saw him as a friend and wanted to help him. I've been waiting for you to come back all these years. I always hoped we could be together again. Oliver, in this life, I only want you. I made terrible mistakes in the past, but please, I'm begging you, give me a chance to fix things. She was practically on her knees, but all I felt was deep exhaustion. Scarlett, is that truly all you wanted to say? My question stunned her. She stammered, unsure how to respond. But seeing the absolute indifference in my eyes, she grew frantic. Oliver, does none of this matter to you? For 10 years I've thought about how to bring you back. I've been waiting. She looked into my eyes, searching for even a hint of warmth. I could only shake my head. Scarlett, you were the one who allowed Owen to cross boundaries. The guilt was visible in her eyes. I gave a cold laugh. Let's be honest. Lydia's attitude toward Owen came from you, didn't it? Without your quiet permission. How would she have dared to call him brother-in-law right in front of me? You've always known how to shut down inappropriate feelings from others. Sometimes too harshly. But with Owen, you always looked the other way. So even if it hadn't been him, it would have been someone else eventually. I took a deep breath, locking her gaze. In the past, I gave you all my love, but I also have the right to take it back. Now I only love my wife, my daughter, and my family. They are the only ones who truly matter to me. I hope you'll stop showing up in my life. Stop messing things up. With that, I turned and headed toward the house. But Scarlett chased after me again and grabbed my arm. Yes, I did have some confusing feelings for Owen, she blurted out, desperation making her reckless. But it was because we were fighting, and he showed up at just the right moment. He offered comfort, but please believe me, I have only ever truly loved you. I always wanted to be your wife. Hearing her emotional voice and feeling her hands reaching toward me, I pulled away sharply, barely restraining the impulse to physically push her back. Enough, Scarlett. Don't you understand by now? I finally said, my voice low and dangerous. I'm a man. I have my pride. Even if nothing happened between you and Owen, I still wouldn't take you back. I have a family now. I have someone I love. And you will never be the person I want to choose. She froze at my words, utterly stunned. I had no interest in dragging this out any further. I picked up my files and walked into my parents' house. I could feel her eyes burning into my back the whole time. But I didn't look back, because I knew she was once the defining crush of my youth. But that was all a long time ago. In fact, I couldn't even remember why I had liked her, or why I ever wanted to be with her. Whatever was between us, it was completely finished. When I left my parents' place an hour later, she was nowhere to be seen. I let out a long breath of pure relief. When Alara came home later that evening, she glared at me with a face full of playful but righteous fury. "What's wrong, Miss Vance?" "Why the killer look?" I asked playfully, wrapping an arm around her waist and gazing deep into her eyes. She finally couldn't hold it in. "When were you planning to tell me Scarlett came looking for you again today?" "Ah, so that's why she was mad." I gave her a deliberately serious nod. "She waited for me at my parents' gate today." "What did she want this time?" she asked through gritted teeth, eyes blazing like she wanted to find Scarlett and tear her limb from limb. I couldn't help but tease her. "She said she still wants to be with me, even if I'm married, even if I have a kid. As long as I agree, she'll give up everything." Give up everything. Elora snapped, her anger boiling over. If I don't find her, she clearly doesn't know the meaning of that word. She looked ready to storm out the door, and I quickly wrapped my arms around her from behind, locking her in place. I'm just teasing you. The moment I said that, the world spun. And the next thing I knew, she had flipped me and was sitting on top of me, pinning my arms down. You dare lie to me? I playfully tapped her nose, then scooped her up into my arms. Her loving eyes locked tightly onto mine. Oliver, we're married now. We have Maya. I'm never divorcing you, and I'm never letting you go. Even if you try to run, I'll hold on to you so tightly. I'll always treat you well and never give anyone else a chance. As she said that, her sweet lips pressed gently against my face. I couldn't even find the words to respond, so I just held her face in my hands and kissed her again and again. Only when she had finally calmed down a little did I speak. You don't have to worry. I never planned on leaving, and I already told Scarlett. There's no going back for me. In my heart, there's only you and Maya. The moment those words left my mouth, her breath wrapped around me. Warm, intense, irresistible. All I knew was that night she made sure I knew exactly where I belonged. After that, Scarlett truly did vanish from my life. She was reassigned to a different city, perhaps transferred by her own firm, or maybe someone quietly pulled strings for her. I never found out, and I never cared. As long as it brought peace to my wife's heart and happiness to my home, I had no objections. One year, during the spring festival holiday, I happened to run into Scarlett outside my parents' house. She had grown much thinner and seemed almost fragile. We only exchanged a brief, silent glance, and then, as if by silent agreement, we immediately turned away from each other. I knew, with absolute certainty, that chapter was closed forever. All the old drama was meaningless now. The only thing that truly mattered was keeping the people right here, my wife and my daughter, safe and happy. That was my whole world.
Thank you for sharing this chapter with us at Velvet Chapters Brew. Comment, like, and subscribe to see where the next page takes us.